Alright, so welcome everybody to this video tutorial in which I'm going to go through everything that Legolizer has to offer. So stay tuned and let's get right into it. First of all, we've got to install the add-on, so for that we're going to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and you'll click on Install. Once here, you'll search for your add-on zip and click on Install Add-on. Let me make this bigger. And here you can see we've got some information about the authors, the version which is 2.0, and here we have some shortcuts. So this is the shortcuts that are set by default. So maybe if you want to change them, you just have to click on them and then press another key, for example A0. Okay, so let's close here. Now if we press N on our keyboard, you'll see here this Legolizer new tab, and it says three things: Add Setup, Legolize, and Lego Landscape Generator. Very important that we first add the Legolizer setup before starting to use it. So we can click on Add Setup or press Ctrl+Shift+A on our keyboard. We'll click OK here, and now everything's been imported. We can press L, and as you can see, this cube has turned into a brick. Let me first do some changes on the cube geometry, just so that it has some subdivision, extrusions and that. So right, so now I've done some changes, as you can see here in my geometry, but you can see the bricks are very big and not adapting well to the mesh. So that's because here the brick size is set to 1 meter. It's very important that before using, you might wanna apply all transforms to your geometry in case you've modified some scales, rotation or whatever. So Ctrl+A and apply all transforms. Now we can continue. So let me make this smaller like that. The next thing we've got is mesh resolution. This mesh resolution controls the quality of the adaptation from mesh to bricks, and basically the higher this value is, the adaptation from mesh to bricks is going to be better, but as well it's going to require more resources to your PC, so have that in mind. Then these 3 brick lengths control the dimension of the bricks. So if we change this, for example, it's going to grow in the x-axis, then in the y-axis like this, on the z-axis. So you've got like up to 24 combinations of bricks, so you can use whichever you like. Next, we've got UV's name. This is very important. Here you have to put your object's UV name. So if, for example, if we had a model importing from Sketchfab, we'll have to go to Object Data Properties and check our UV's name here. So whatever it says here, you have to copy it and paste it in here. This is very important for shading and this animation preset so that they work properly. Then we've got our first animation preset, which is layer disintegration. As you can see, everything's disappeared. That's because we have to animate this so that the layers appear. As you can see, in some layers there's a bit of randomness. That's because of this slider here, that we can control whether we want more randomness or 0 randomness. This animation axis basically controls in which axis the effect is going to happen. So by default it's set to 3, which is z-axis, 2 is y-axis, and 1 is x-axis. So we can change it. For example, now it's on the y-axis, and we make this slider move, you can see, and same on the x-axis. We can also switch direction, so instead of growing that way, it's going to grow this way. This seed value only works if we've got here some randomness, like this. With 0 randomness, this seed value doesn't even work. So, and then this animation speed is like a multiplier for this value. So for example, if we had some keyframes in here, this animation speed will multiply the speed of the animation. So if we multiply this by 2, you can see that now it's faster, the whole effect. Okay, so before moving on to Lego Bricks Assembly, we have to disable this and enable Lego Bricks Assembly. As well, we have to move this slider so that the effect happens, as you can see now. And here we've got some similar values as before. So randomness controls randomness, as you can see, this is with 0 randomness. effect, but I think this effect looks very cool with some randomness on the bricks. This spread max distance controls the spreading of the bricks, so the higher this value is, bricks are gonna reach farther before they disappear. So for example, if we put a 10, you can see there's now more bricks all around here. Again, this animation axis, it's the same. Now it's on the y-axis. And on the x-axis. Also, this switch direction. And this seed value, which works with randomness, and again this animation speed. Okay, so now we've gone through everything of Legolizer itself. Now we're going to change to Lego Landscape Generator. Okay, so now I've changed it to Lego Landscape Generator. As you can see here, we've got these options. So we've got first the brick lengths that we can change as well. The default length is 2 by 2 by 2, so then we've got our landscape size, which we can make a little bit bigger, like 7. Now for biome toggle, I'm going to move to render view so that you can really see. So this is our first biome preset. As you can see, it's number 1, so it's short. And here's how it looks for now. We can change this biome by clicking here and making it this rocky mountains. We've got here like desert that we can change, for example, the base level. Then the fourth is like a swamp, and as well we can change the base level like this, for example, to make that smaller. Then this ice, like chunky ice, you know, like I know I don't have like the best PC for rendering this, so that's why it goes a little bit slow, but just for you to see what it does. And the last one is canyon. You see 6 set to canyon. Okay, so first this scale value. Basically this scale value controls the scale of the texture. As well this seed value. So we want to make different landscapes. This base level, you can see what it does, like a water level or like the ground level. Depression is like the height, and with this the maximum height is like the height before all of this collapse. So we can make it like very contrast this way. So for example, the canyon has some of that, as you can see here. Let me put this to 0. You can see here, this is like the maximum height. And then this micro relief is like the detail of the texture that we can really see with this size of the landscape. But if we make this like 15, we can see better what it does. And now this rotate, you can see better with the river. Okay, so let's continue here. The landscape animation, basically it animates like the whole terrain, like if we were moving through it, like this. As you can see now, it's all moving. We can switch the direction, so instead of going that way, it goes this way. Okay, now I think you're gonna see it better. Yeah, you can see that. And then as well, this animation is bit just as before. Okay, this layer disintegration, just like before, sorry, I have to enable it, of course. By default is set to the x-axis, you know, like the 1. But we can change it to the y-axis or the z-axis. We can add as well some randomness and switch the direction, the seed, you know, just like before. And as well this bricks assembly, that we can change the randomness, the spread max distance, like this. We can make this bigger, this direction, and the seed and the animation speed. They are pretty similar as before, so that's pretty cool. And that's all for Lego Landscape and Legolizer. Now I'm going to switch to the shading tab to explain you the materials that are included with Legolizer, which are PBR Plastic Material and PBR Transparent Plastic Material. They are both really cool materials that aim for realism, so I'm going to switch now. Okay, so before moving on to shading, I want to tell you how you would use this with a model imported from Sketchfab or wherever. And this is very important because maybe you've got objects that have more than one geometry. In this case, this crate has got 4 objects. It's important for you that you join it all together into one geometry by pressing Ctrl J, and now everything is joined into one only geometry. So this is very important before starting to use Legolizer, so have that in mind. And now let's move on to shading. So for shading, I've imported this 3D model of an orange. As you can see here, I've already joined it into just one geometry, which is very important. And now I'm going to switch to render view and I'm going to apply Legolizer. Okay, so as you can see, I've split up my screen. Here we'll have to put like PBR Plastic Material and also in here, so that it's the same. As you can see right now, the orange has lost all the orange color because the color is using this white. So we have to change it by connecting here the orange base color and plugging it here. As you can see, it's completely black, and that's because this UV map does not coincide with this one. So we have to copy this and paste it here and paste it here. And now you can see there's some color right now. Of course, this is very big, so we might want to do it even smaller, like 0.25. Now let's talk about PBR Plastic Material. Just in case here, in material properties, you can control everything of the PBR Plastic Material properties. But I'm gonna go through all of these parameters in the shading tab just to make sure you understand what they do, and so that we can preview them, and it's going to be easy for me to explain myself. So then we've got the roughness that we can preview here, and as you can see, we can control it by moving this slider up and down, but most of Lego plastic material have very low roughness, so they are more reflective. Then we've got this subsurface strength. Okay, so now I've moved closer to the brick so that you can see what it does. Basically, subsurface, it's the parameter that controls how much light does go through the material. So for example, if we had 0 subsurface strength, you can see that on the edges there's like no fade, but if we put a little bit of subsurface like 0.6 and we wait for the render, we can see that on the edges there's like a fade which is brighter than the rest of the brick, and that's basically the effect of the subsurface. So the higher this value is, there's going to be more light coming through the material. So by default it's set to 0.6. Then the subsurface radius kind of controls the color of the light that goes through the material. So for that, I recommend you to plug the color texture into the subsurface radius as well. And with that, we're gonna have like more accurate colors. Then this subsurface scale is basically how large is this effect going to be. So for example, if we put like 0.1, you can see now that this fade of the light that goes through is way bigger. Some time to render. You can see now that this brighter part, it's way bigger than before. So that's basically the subsurface scale. Then we've got this metallic value that controls the metallic of the material, but can also be used as a mask. If we search here like random mask, we can preview this and see mask for bricks that we can control its amount, and we can put it here into the factor of this mix node, and we can plug it here. As you can see, with the metallic value set to 1, the material loses all of its parameters like subsurface is not even visible here. So I don't recommend you to put it like on to the top of 1, but maybe like 0.25. That's kind of good. And as you can see now, the black means that there's going to be no metallic, and 0.25 means that there's going to be like a 0.25 of this slider. So if we play it here, you can see now that there are some bricks that have got like some metallic on them. You can see it here better, but as I told you, I don't recommend you to put like 1, like maybe 2, like 0.3 or something like that. Also, we've got this metallic roughness that basically controls the roughness of the metallic, and can also be used as a mask. So for example, here we can put like 0.05, which is the default value, and for the metallic we can put like a bit more of roughness, so that they're a bit more rough like this. And you can see now the plastic bricks with no metallic are going to be less rough than the plastic with some metallic. So this can be used both as a mask. Well, all of these sliders can be used as a mask. And we've got here like a random mask for each brick. So this is pretty convenient, honestly, for procedural shading. So, and then we have the Lego logo, which we can control its bump. And now it comes the good part of photorealism features. We put this roughness to preview it. We can see now there's like these fingerprints, scratches, vents, and like this grunge, which is basically what it says here. So I'm gonna go for the dents. As you can see, if I turn this value really high, there are these little dents here that we can control it. The seed, the scale, the amount as well, and the bump they've got. Then this fingerprint as well. We can control the seed, the scale, also this richest scale of the fingerprint, and like the distance between the ridges. Now they closer, and now they're completely separated, as you can see, not even visible. The shape of the, whether we want it to be like very diffuse or like a smudged fingerprint. Then the amount of that on the fingerprint, the blur, the amount of fingerprints as well, and a little bump they've got, and the intensity. The intensity is completely related to the roughness of the fingerprints. Then the grunge that we can control its contrast. See the detail. I recommend you to build like a value higher to 6 maybe, because you know, if we use low detail values, it's gonna look a bit different and a bit weird. So by default is set to 7. Also the intensity, which also goes directly to the roughness and the bump. And finally the scratches, that we can control the frequency. You can see now there's way more scratches, the amount as well, the seed, the scale, not a lot of things, also like this dirt, a lot of things that we could go through. But okay, so now I've changed to the PBR transparent material, and you can see it's pretty similar to the non-transparent one with the photorealism features, but it has some little things that we're going to talk about, like this brightness. Basically, the higher this value is, bricks are going to be brighter, so it's going to affect the color of the bricks. By default, it's set to 1, but I don't recommend you to move this slider down to 0 because it's going to lose all of the color. So we can put maybe like a 2. Then this volume density. This volume density depends directly on the lightning of your scene. So by default it's set to 30, which is a lot, as you can see here. It's a lot. It doesn't really seem like transparent anymore. So you may have to decrease that value, as in my case now, so that it seems like transparent. This volume color, we could plug the color texture into the volume color, but it's optional, you know, it's not as important as connecting the texture color into the subsurface radius of the PBR plastic material, like the one we've seen before. So this is kind of optional. In my case, I'm not going to plug it. So for the rest, it's basically the same. So we've got these dents, the fingerprints, lines, scratches that we have to activate through this slider. So I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of fun with this material. Have in mind that we can control it by pressing N and going here to the material properties. From here we can change basically everything without having to open the setting tab, which is very convenient. Okay, so before moving on to the outro, I'd like to show you that here, if we press N on the shading tab, we've got the bake legolizer. So this is very useful for objects that are textured through procedural materials that you want to bake the color information. So that's why we've added this simple baker, so that it's easy for you to bake the whole texture. Okay, so I've created this procedural material very quickly. It's not too complex. So now imagine I'd like to bake this color information to apply Legolizer to this monkey. For that, we'll have to press N on our keyboard, and here we'll have to go first to this resolution and choose the resolution we want. By default is like 1024 pixels, but you can change it, for example, like 4K. But this is not necessary since we're just going to use the color info, so we don't need that many pixels. So it's good. And now we'll click on add texture and select here this Susan. So the texture we add, it's gonna have the name of our objects, for example, in this case Susan, so Susan here. So after add texture, we've got this smart UV. So this is like a button to activate Blender's smart UV unwrapping. So it's there in case you want to use it. In my case, I'm not gonna click on it because Susan has already got her own UV. So make sure that before baking, you have selected the image texture and your object. Lastly, I'm gonna click on bake, give it a minute to render. And now we have everything baked. So now if I change from this to this, you can see it's basically the same. And now if I wanted to legalize Susan, we'll make this smaller. Okay, so now we wanted to use the PBR plastic material, we'll have to change here the material to PBR plastic and make sure that this material and this material coincide, and then search for Susan here and change this to UV map, because Blender objects have got by default the UV's name to UV map. So make sure here it says the same, which it does. And now we preview this, you can see we've got the stripes of the material. So bake Legolizer is basically useful to speed up your workflow with the Legolizer. So yeah, by pressing N you can enable it and bake your procedural materials. So let's now go with the outro. So that's basically all for the PBR transparent material and the PBR plastic material, and also for Legolizer. So I hope you find this video useful and that you enjoy Legolizer as much as I do. As you can see probably by the end of this video, there's a lot of things that you can do with Legolizer. So make sure you take advantage of all that it has to offer. So that's all from me for this video. Make sure you tag me on all of your Legolizer art and see you in further videos.